Welcome back to Cooking with Miss Stockton. This week is Sweets Week, and we are going to continue with a yeast bread recipe. This is an enriched dough. It includes butter and milk, as well as the flour, yeast, sugar, and salt. It also includes an egg, which makes it a really rich dough, sweet and delicious. This recipe also has an optional frosting topping. It's a cream cheese frosting and it's quite delicious. If you decide that you want to have this icing on your sweet rolls, the recipe will be right here for you. So for the first part of this recipe, you're going to start with your active dry yeast, and you want a half teaspoon, which you are going to mix with 1 cup of flour. And then I'm going to level it off, and you're going to mix that flour and yeast together well. For the second part of this recipe, you're going to heat up some milk to just below boiling, and that will take care of the enzyme in the milk that might otherwise interfere with your yeast's ability to grow. So you're going to have a half a cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of butter, a half teaspoon of salt. And again, that will give both flavor to your recipe, and it will slow down the production of the yeast. It'll slow it down just a little so it won't produce too much carbon dioxide gas too fast before the structure of the gluten can develop. You're also going to put in 2 tablespoons of sugar, and this is part of what will make your dough a sweet dough. So you're going to heat that up until it comes to just below boil. Now you will know that your milk is ready is if you happen to take it off the fire and you see a whole bunch of steam rising, which I do here. So it's just below boiling. Some little bubbles are starting to form, but it hasn't come to where the bubbles are forming around the side of the pan, or it's not a rolling boil where you'd see a bunch of bubbles rolling around in the pan. You don't want to get it to that point. You want to just get it to the point where you see the steam coming, but not to the point where it's boiling. And then what you want to do is go ahead and set that hot milk, butter, sugar, salt mixture aside until it comes down to room temperature. Because again, or a little warmer than room temperature, if it's too warm, it will kill your yeast. If you were to pour this in right now, you might kill your yeast because it's just pretty hot in there. So after your milk butter mixture has come to room temperature, you want to go ahead and pour it over that flour and yeast that you have in your bowl. Then you're going to go ahead and add in your egg, which hopefully is about at room temperature. You want to go ahead and mix that egg in really well. And then after you've got that mixed in really well, you're going to go ahead and add in your remaining cup of flour. Go ahead and add in your remaining cup of flour. So you're going to mix that in well. After you've mixed in that remaining cup of flour, and it's pretty well incorporated, you want to turn it out, your dough out, into a lightly floured surface. I'm working on my marble here, which is nice because it keeps the dough nice and cold. Go ahead and knead this together, and then knead it for about 6 minutes. So after you have it incorporated, it's not quite incorporated yet, you're going to knead it again until it's smooth and elastic. So after you've kneaded your dough like this for your full 6 minutes, push and fold, push and fold, you're going to have some dough that's nice, smooth and elastic, just like this. It's not sticking to your fingers. and it's not flaking away. It's a little sticky, but it's not sticking. You don't get a whole bunch of stuff back. That's perfect. You want to take a clean bowl. I clean my bowl, and a little bit of butter this time. Instead of the oil that you use for your pizza, you're going to use a little bit of butter, and go ahead and butter that bowl. I'm just using the paper towel to move the butter around, and then I'm going to, just about a teaspoon of butter that I used. I'm going to roll that dough, coat it just a little bit, as best I can with that butter mixture, and then I'm going to go ahead and place a clean towel over the top of the bowl, let it rise till it's doubled in size, about an hour, come back and roll out my dough. At this point, you could also put your dough covered in saran wrap, put a piece of saran rather than the towel over the bowl, put it in the fridge overnight, and you could make the rest of the recipe tomorrow. All right, after you've allowed your dough to rest and hopefully rise until it's about doubled in size, you can sort of punch it down just a little. This one won't have risen quite as much as your pizza dough did. You want to go ahead and prepare your surface. All right, so you're gonna take your dough, and I like to form it just a little into that rectangular shape. You're gonna take your rolling pin, and you're gonna roll it out into that nice, just about 12 by 18 inch rectangle. Then what you wanna do is take 1.5 tablespoons of melted butter, and you're gonna brush that right on top of your rolled out dough. For your sugar cinnamon mixture, you're gonna take a 1/4 cup of sugar and a teaspoon of cinnamon. So after you've measured in your 1/4 cup of sugar and your 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, you just want to mix that up well, and then making sure you don't have any big lumps of sugar. So just squishing them a little bit. You want to carefully pour that onto your rolled out dough. And then what you're going to do is roll up your dough like you would a carpet. So when you roll, you want to roll fairly tightly. If you want more rolls, you can roll this way, or if you want fewer rolls that are fatter, you can roll the way that I'm rolling. Okay, so we're gonna keep that going, and I'm squishing it in at the ends a little bit just to keep it going, and then you end up with a nice roll like this. Once you get to this point, you want to take a serrated knife, and you want to, using a sawing motion, you want to go ahead and cut your cinnamon roll up in half. If you were just to cut down with the butter knife, you're going to squish it all together, which is something you don't want. So with a sawing motion, you're going to cut that half in half, each of the halves in half, and then each of those fourths in half, and you should end up with 8 rolls. Once you have all your rolls cut, you want to prepare your pan. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this bit of butter, won't need to use all of it, but I'm going to take this bit of butter, and I'm going to actually use it to grease my cake pan. This is a 9-inch cake pan. An 8-inch round cake pan would work as well. Sometimes I like them to be a little smaller than this, but this is the size that I had on hand. You want to get the sides as well. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take just a little bit of flour, and you're going to put a little flour in, and you're going to tilt that around your pan so you've both greased and floured your pan. I'm going to let my excess flour come off onto here. Whoops, didn't get quite enough in there. And that will make it so that your rolls don't stick to your pan. Once you've got to this point, you want to go ahead and put your rolls into your pan. Now they will expand as they rise overnight. I'm going to have mine rise overnight in the refrigerator. And then when I get up tomorrow morning, because it's the evening now, they should have almost filled the pan. And when I bake them, they'll probably fill the pan the rest of the way. So they're going to get appreciably larger. So at this point, I'm going to cover it with saran and put it into the refrigerator overnight. So this is the next morning, and I let my cinnamon rolls sit out for a little bit over an hour so they could double in size. And then you want to preheat your oven to 375, and as soon as your oven is preheated, you want to go ahead and put these in. Center shelf is best. You might notice that I'm wearing my workout clothes here, and that's because after you make this recipe, you're definitely going to want to work out. So while your cinnamon rolls are cooking, you could make the icing, the cream cheese icing, if you'd like to. It is optional. They're good plain as well, or you can do a sticky bun option that you'll see in the recipe that I'll post at the end of this video. So for the cream cheese icing, you're definitely going to want to have your cream cheese, and this is 4 ounces, and your butter at room temperature. That's so you can cream them easily together. So I'm going to put them here in my mixing bowl using my hand mixer. To your creamed butter and cream cheese, you're going to add 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. And it's best to add a 1/2 cup at a time. So I'm going to add a 1/2 cup and then I'm going to mix it in. So this is what your icing will look like after 1 cup of powdered sugar has been added. I have 1/2 more cup. The last thing I'm going to add to my icing is a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And today I'm using clear vanilla. Sorry, I did that just so I wouldn't spill it. This vanilla actually comes from Costa Rica. And it's interesting. Oh, that means my oven's ready to put my cinnamon rolls in. It's interesting about the vanilla, it tastes different from different places. Vanilla from Mexico tastes very different from vanilla from Costa Rica, which tastes very different from vanilla that you can get here in the United States. So that's something to try if you can, to get vanilla from different places and try it. Chocolate also has very different flavors if it comes from different parts of the earth. When your cinnamon rolls come out of the oven, you'll notice that they've grown quite a bit. If your yeast is alive, you're going to get bigger cinnamon rolls. You want to let them sit for about 30 seconds to a couple minutes, and then you want to invert them on a plate. You're going to use some hot pads. I actually have hot gloves that I'm using here. Put a plate over the top, and then you'll invert them onto that plate. Sometimes I need a little tap. So I actually took a knife and loosened up the bottom of my sweet rolls just a little bit. So I'm going to put my plate on top. I am going to invert the cinnamon rolls like this. Hopefully they'll come out. Yep, here we go. Oh, lost a little bit of one there. And take off my glove and stick it on. Interesting, this one doesn't look quite as cooked as the rest. Then you can go ahead and let them cool just a little bit more, or you could take a spatula or a knife and you could give them a little bit of, or a lot in this case, of the icing right on top. You might want to leave some plain for people that are watching their weight. And remember, it's great to do a workout after these. They're incredibly delicious, but also definitely a treat, not an everyday sort of food. Here's the recipe as I made it in this demonstration. Here's the recipe that has a sticky bun topping option. Yum!